All right, Color Crypto, let's go. Get me your feedback on Twitter at GabeColors, at GabeColors.
Coloring Crypto.
This episode is sponsored by Hudoku. Hudoku is to color, like Tetris is to shapes.
Je besteedt al je tijd op Facebook om like te klikken. Maar zie je ook echt wat voor foto het is?
You can download Hudoku on the App Store.
Je zou rustiger moeten kijken. Speel met kleur. Speel Hudoku. En wees levendiger.
That was our sponsor, and this is our podcast, episode 56 of Coloring Crypto. Taylor Monahan. Let's just dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So you are the founder, the CEO of MyCrypto. I checked out a couple panels you did, or a panel you did at ETH Denver, I think, and then the podcast Wire. And I had thought, before hearing those, I thought we'll get into like a lot of user experience stuff, but those topics were fairly exhaustive on those podcasts. Tell me, what was it like coming out of? Let's give our audience a quick basis. Just give us the quick, rundown of what MyCrypto is.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my spiel. I'm Taylor Monahan. I'm the founder and CEO of MyCrypto. MyCrypto allows people to easily interact with the Ethereum blockchain. We're non-custodial, which means that you actually hold your own crypto and you're using sort of our layer of buttons to send that crypto from one place to another. So we don't hold your funds. We don't give permission to you to move your funds. That's all on you.
And so this non-custodial piece is really something that folks that are sort of in the know or kind of like on the team really emphasize. It has to do with, keeping everything decentralized, going to this core philosophy of what the blockchain was meant to be. Can you share some examples of, just products or companies in this space that are custodial, just to give us that context?
Yeah, so Coinbase is probably the biggest example of a custodial wallet or a custodial exchange, depending on how you use them. Pretty much every exchange that you've heard of, so Gemini, Kraken, Poloniex, Bitfinex, Bittrex, Binance, all of those. Those are all solutions where you send them your funds. They sort of record it in their own central database. When you log in, you see this like beautiful dashboard that shows you how much money you have in your Coinbase account or your Poloniex account or whatever it is. And then when you are trading, so say you're selling your ETH or you're buying Bitcoin or whatever it is, that's all happening sort of in the database. And then when you leave the exchange, meaning you withdraw your money, that's when it sort of goes back into your possession.
And why do you feel strongly about building a company and product that is non-custodial?
Well, primarily, I love what the blockchain offers, right? I totally am captured by the decentralized vision of the future and empowering people and stuff like that. But also, I have zero interest in dealing with regulation and lawyers and everything that comes with it. I, would much prefer to focus on our product and building the best product possible and helping people in this space, do things successfully and not lose their money. And then obviously help people get into this space. So it's 50-50 between this is what I truly believe in. And also, the second you sort of dip your toe into that custodial world, you are also, you have a lot of laws and regulations that you must follow, a lot of licenses that you must get, a lot of working with the state or the country or the government or whatever. And that's probably one of the more interesting things, in general regarding crypto is that in order for people to get into the space, there have to be companies that live sort of on the edge and bridge the two worlds. And Coinbase, again, is a perfect example of this. And, they've done immense things for the space, but also people can be, they can look at Coinbase as not being crypto, so to speak.
I enjoyed the part of, I think it was on the Wire podcast with the panel with Eric Voorhees and you made some comment about there was a unique scream your lawyer had when you brought up almost any sort of new topic. But I want to actually get into that stuff, that whole legal line. But before we lose all my listeners going into the legal stuff, let's do a super hyped use case stuff of okay, here's who uses MyCrypto now. What are they using it for? Who arrives there? Who finds it and is like, oh man, this is exactly what I was looking for. And then where do you see it going? So in a year or 2 years, the way it's going to solve people's problems and why they're going to love it, and just kind of what give us a little bit more about who's going to love MyCrypto.
Yeah. So during the bull run, right, of 2017, 2018, a ton of our users had to use our product because they wanted to invest in these ICOs and get these tokens. And when you do that, when you invest in an ICO or you want to hold these tokens, with the centralized exchanges, one, if you buy tokens with your ETH, the tokens will just be sent back to the exchange's hot wallet, not to your personal account. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that you would have to wait for the exchange to support all these tokens, which they wouldn't do because these tokens really didn't even exist, an hour ago. So that was, when we saw the most user growth, that was really the primary use case, was people couldn't use the centralized exchanges because the things that they wanted to do weren't supported. More generally speaking, we have a lot of very sort of advanced or power users within the space that really understand the value of holding your own crypto, of doing things in a very secure manner where no one else can ever access your private keys or your funds. What was especially difficult as we've grown is finding the balance between providing features for those advanced users and targeting those advanced users, and then obviously making our product easy to use for new people who are completely overcome by FOMO and need this token right now and don't really know what they're doing. How do we enable them to use our product successfully?
Right.
Moving forward, it gets really interesting because I often say that our sort of market is people who are already in the crypto space and have some external desire for decentralization or whatever it is. But that's not a market. That's that's a handful of people on Reddit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of our goals is we want anyone walking down the street, we want to be able to send them to MyCrypto and for them to understand the value of crypto and not the I want to be rich tomorrow or the promise of being rich or whatever it is. We want them to understand what this world enables them to do, and how powerful that can be. And then we want them to be able to use the money that's in their bank account to get some crypto, hold it, not lose it. That's a big one. And do things in this ecosystem beyond just holding their money and watching sort of the price or the value of it go up and go down and go up and go down. There's so many remarkable things being built right now. And the real question is how can we capture people, and then how can we move these people to get the true value of the blockchain? Again, beyond just speculating on the price.
It's so interesting. I mean, to me from the outside looking in, particularly watching the panel that was on YouTube from, I think it was at Denver, like you brought up a few things, prioritizing, like the onboarding, getting somebody from, they've got money, cash, fiat dollars in their wallet, in their hard wallet, in their pants pocket, and the amount of steps to get that into a crypto wallet, into crypto, have it on MyCrypto, all of those steps. And then all the things you're talking about, I can only imagine the process of prioritizing. I mean, I guess the good news is it seemed like most of the folks in your sector are all kind of dealing with the exact same, challenge of how you prioritize. Before you actually get into like what you guys are prioritizing, can you share just a little bit of like, I know like you had, My Ether wallet before, and it sounds like in the last year it's been MyCrypto. What have been, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but it sounds like you incorporated MyCrypto around the time of like the peak of these prices like a year ago. And over the last year, will you just share a little bit of the process of growing your company and some of the harder challenges in prioritizing, what features to develop and how to identify your market and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great question. So we'll kind of like step back to sort of 2017 when the bull run was just starting. The price was just starting to go up.
Yeah.
That's when we really started like growing the company and the team, because suddenly we, transformed from being sort of this open source tool that people on Reddit were using to being an actual product, I guess, or, people perceived us as a product and therefore we were one. And we suddenly had so many users, and they had such different goals than our sort of original core user base. And we had like heaps of support tickets, and we had phishing websites that were, a copy of our site, and we had bugs that needed to be fixed right now. And our back end infrastructure would just break randomly. And there were all these different things. And we were like hiring people like crazy, trying to keep up with all the different fires that needed to be put out. And so we grew the team during that time, and that was and it was an insane time. And it was just crazy. And it was very reactionary. We weren't, we were mostly like, okay, the servers are offline. 1, fix them, get them back online. 2, someone figure out how to make it so that they don't go offline in the future. In a normal sort of, not normal, but in a more stable business, you'd probably plan it out. You'd probably come up with a few different scaling solutions and implement all of them. You'd be a little bit more calculated in your moves. Whereas we were like, okay, just spin up more nodes. Don't actually scale anything. Don't actually improve anything. Just put more there and hope for the best. That was sort of, and that's like specifically an example with infrastructure, but this was like literally everywhere. Support tickets, like more people answering support tickets. It's insane. 2018, as the market started to die down, and there wasn't things weren't literally constantly on fire. We had to grow in a different way. So it wasn't that we were adding more people to the team, or, we weren't spinning up new nodes every day or anything, but we had to figure out how to actually prioritize things, where we actually want to be in the long term, how to motivate ourselves and each other when there isn't this external urgency. Things that you don't typically think about was, where we grew the most. And also we became more organized. We have payroll now, which we did not before. We have a lot of like, it's so different. There's, it's more stable, it's more calculated, it's more efficient, it's more productive. Even if there's some days it doesn't necessarily feel like that, because what you're doing is sort of more in the medium long term rather than, like putting out the fire now. Like it used to be a win was the node is offline, we fixed it, the node is online. Okay, done. Like I was productive today. Now it's just much different.
It's so fascinating because I sort of skimmed through the Medium article that you wrote, where what I also really enjoyed about that was you kind of like had this initial success right off the bat. There was almost too much in terms of like the capacity you guys could handle, but it's still a great problem to have. But then you kind of like went back kind of the opposite way a lot of these like, startup accelerators go, where it's like, people come in and it's very process heavy and you read all the books and then you launch the idea, find product market fit. Like you guys kind of nailed product market fit like right off the bat and then had to like hustle to get it together. I'm curious, like as you went into, trying to create more process and then fundraising and create structure around it, when you read these books, I'm imagining like Lean Startup or what's the
all of them.
What's the Ben Horowitz?
The hard thing about hard things.
So here's a question. I'm curious if you think back about reading the books. What were some examples in the book where you read it and you go like, oh my god, that sounds great, but that has got nothing to do with the real world, which you now had experience in, Or do they all just fit perfectly? You just like read them and you're like, oh, this is perfect. Wow.
So the one that at the time I was like, you're dead wrong. And now today I'm like, you're dead right. Was a section in Hard Thing About Hard Things about like hiring people and how you hire people and who you kind of put into leadership positions and the titles that you give people. Specifically the titles. I was like, you're all wrong. And now I'm like, oh yeah. Oops.
Wait, what is hard thing about hard things about titles?
So it says if you give like the C-level titles to your first hires that it will not end well, and a couple different paths could go forward, but for the most part it's not going to end well because you're as your company grows, that sort of C-level person that isn't really a C-level person will probably have to be replaced with an actual C-level person. And what I mean by that is like when you're in super hyper growth mode and reactionary mode in startup land, a C-level person is the person that can wear all the hats and do all of the things and take charge and has been with your company since the get-go and stuff like that. And then later on, as you're, actually sort of growing or growing up, those C-levels are not people that do things, right? They're not the people that write the code. They're not the people that send the tweets. They're not the people that are down and dirty in the nitty gritty. They're the people that have, immense capabilities in executing the vision of the whole company, of managing people, of, organizing all the different things and keeping things on track. And that's definitely something that we've seen a bit is, there are good things about wearing all the hats and doing all the things, and then there are bad things.
So let me see if I understand. So for example, let's say you guys you're growing, you got, your core founders and you're ready to like get your marketing team really developed out and specialized. And you've got a friend of a friend who's got experience marketing, and you're into it. Your sense might be like, okay, let's make them CMO, the chief marketing officer. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is like, no, bring them in at like a much lower title level, so that if you could do it to a point where it's clear they're really not the top dog, you don't have to contend with demoting them and bringing in a badass professional experienced CMO.
Right, and like my favorite way of so especially in the early days, you typically give these titles out because you don't have, well, yeah, there's no money. So
you're VP and you're chief.
Yeah. But also because you don't have a marketing team. You have one person who is doing all the marketing and all the PR and all the biz dev and all the partnerships and all, probably some support on the side. So, my kind of how I personally looked at it was like, we didn't have a marketing department in the traditional sense. Like Jordan was, and to this day, actually, Jordan is our marketing department. And that's a much more accurate title for him because, he does all the things. But as we grow, what is going to happen? How is his role going to shift? We're still like so early in the marketing days that we're fine on that front. But yeah, like when you talk about like CTO, when you talk about what is the responsibilities of a CTO, early startups, that CTO is probably the person who wrote every line of code in the entire product. As your company grows, though, the CTO should never be writing any code. They're motivating people. They are reviewing. They are helping the team members grow. They are outlining the whole sort of vision for how the product progresses on a technical level. It's totally different. It's really, really interesting.
That's a good one. Okay, so that's an example of something in these wise books that you didn't believe at first, then you realized that was totally spot on. Mine was always like the marketing personas. I still hate marketing personas, where you spend this workshop weekend describing like our core audience is Margaret, who lives in Tallahassee, and she's and it's like. I feel like that stuff. I'm just like maybe I'll have my comeuppance where one day I'll realize that was really, really the key. But anything else?
I think no, that's such a good example. I just want to touch on that. It's like so there's sort of like two ways to go about most things, and one is you do things because you should do them or because a book told you to do them. Which means, sitting down and saying, Margaret in Tallahassee is this, and her user journey is this, and whatever. But the better, more productive way, and what these sort of exercises are trying to get you to actually do, but it's not a good way of actually doing them, is actually like just understanding your users and who they are. And so, like, for me, because I like was always in the support inbox and answering questions, I had a very good understanding of my users. And I didn't ever sit down and make personas for them, but I could tell you like, hey, we have the dude who only uses air-gapped machines, and he buys that air-gapped machine with cash at his Best Buy that's 50 miles away from his hometown, and then he drives another 50 miles in the opposite direction to sit in a field to generate this super secure private key. Like that's a user of our site, and then on the other side we just
pinged some NSA alarms,
right? And then on the polar opposite end is the I saw a white paper on Facebook and I'm so taken by it, and this is the best thing ever, and I'm gonna be so fucking rich, so rich. Let me get my tokens right now. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just gonna, here's all my money. That type of user is also our user. And so we never like made personas for them, but they email us. And that's what those,
I think I've been that like a couple times, but like now, I've learned my lesson.
Yeah. Everyone learns their lesson.
Got to go through that at one point. It's like, it's a necessary phase, maybe. I've got a question, like as a sort of the whole idea of like making a product and it being this stage of, for you guys, 2017, where it's just, plugging holes and making it work. I imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm curious what it was of like, what was one of the features of the product where you're like, oh my God, once we have like a couple of weeks of downtime, we're going to solve this, implement this one new feature, whether it's like a login thing or I don't know, whatever it would be, where it just said that for months and you knew this would be like the thing that would fix things, and how that's kind of evolved over time. And I'm trying to think of specific things with your product so we can kind of like visualize, what it's like to be you and developing your product.
So there's so many, but Um,
Or how
the one
about
that's
one that turned out not to be so
still
true?
Well, so I'll tell you the one that I'm still like mulling over in my head and still trying to figure out. And the reason that we haven't implemented it is because I don't have any confidence in what is in my head. Um, we talk all the time about onboarding. And I talk all the time about, I mean, I literally said it like 2 minutes ago, how I want people off the street to be able to come to my crypto, take the cash, blah, 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 right? This process. But we don't do that currently. Like you land on our site and you're like, how do you want to unlock your wallet? You want to create a new one? Okay, cool. Here you go. I don't know if it's like a wizard or if it's a separate helper site or if it's more simple than that and I'm overthinking it. But like, how do we, on an execution level, how do we accomplish that? How can literally someone land on our site and successfully hold crypto, in the next couple hours, not, in 3 months or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, this is one that came up. I forget if it was I think it was on that panel that I watched with you guys, where somebody was saying, "Why don't we just?" I think it was the guy on the far left at that panel. Yeah, he was like, "Why don't we just?" He's like, "I know everybody hates this, but let's just take institutional money. Let's just take your fiat." And then have a very transparent, clear program to move you off of that eventually. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I don't know if do you know that podcast called Zigzag? I think you'd love it. So there's a woman named Manoush Zakoti, and she had a really great podcast. And then about 2 years ago, got into like this whole blockchain journalism thing, and they transparently kind of told the story of their blockchain project. And their token sale went terribly. I was like, this is the first token sale they've actually told the truth and said it went terribly. Like everybody else raised millions. But one of the journalists in their kind of like their cohort wrote this article where they were like, here's why it failed. It was literally, they counted 47 steps from taking the money and getting, and buying one of their tokens. It was 47 steps.
Yes,
and it's like
insane.
Yeah, and that's just not going to happen. And I've got and I want to get into this with you too, the NFT reality, because I've got some folks I'm working with to do a non-fungible token, and we're looking at that right now to go, let's just sell it on PayPal and have a whole written out thing of like, listen, we are committed to getting decentralized and et cetera, but we know that 95% of people that are going to be interested in our thing are not going to be, they're not going to have any kind of wallet,
Right. And this is so, you just hit the nail on the head. How do I say this? When a user wants to do something like play a game or have a collectible or use this token to accomplish X, all the things that I've learned and I've built as I'm building this wallet, which is, sort of like this infrastructure, no longer applies or shouldn't apply if the DApp or the token or whatever is going to be successful. Because how is someone going to, not just get the token, but how do they use the token? How does the token interact with the world or with the blockchain or whatever? What value does it provide the user? Not money value, but actual value. And when you answer those questions, you very, very quickly realize that private keys, wallets, accounts, addresses, even like balances and gas and like every single concept that I deal with on a day-to-day basis literally has to be thrown out if you want to be truly competitive with the traditional world. And that's where
it's the massive conundrum. It's the massive, yeah.
It is, and I speak so often on like security and ensuring your decentralized programs or applications or products or whatever are secure and not centralized and all of these things. But every time someone comes after me after and they go, hey, so we have this token, and basically when people have this token, they can use it to do X. But we're talking to all of our potential users, and none of them hold crypto. None of them know what a wallet is. None of them know what a private key is. We can't give them a freaking private key. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
And I have to agree with them, because both they and the user are 100% focused on the thing that they want to do, not everything that I've been working on for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's so layered and tricky though, because it's almost like this is the exact type of thing you can look back on in 10 years and go like, oh my God, we wasted all of our intellectual headspace debating this topic, you know, and it will just get figured out in 10, 20, who knows when, but like, you know, and so it's really interesting. Did you, well, I wanted to hear about Denver. I'm curious. Joining it to this with a tangent, or perhaps a bridge here. Did you come out of the experience networking and talking with more of these things, like this particular question, resolved, or just more of a better network, or kind of like how did you shift in your thinking coming in and out, and then how was the event?
So yeah, this was all of the sort of the ETH global events are always amazing. This one specifically, we had 12 of our team members together. Wow. We have a remote team, so it's very rare that we get everyone together. So that was an experience in itself. It was, it's always so rewarding to be together in person though. And you like suddenly understand that all of their Slack sort of comments or messages that you were reading as like, I don't know, like a snarky asshole. Actually, it's just like they're very, very nice and quiet and kind-hearted. And you're like, oh my Lord.
Like, now it's funny what was like so annoying.
Like the voice in your head when you read their messages literally changes after you hang out with people in person. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And then in terms of like the community and the people that I met at the event, it amazes me how much activity is going on and how many hard problems people are working on and how many remarkable things are being built right now. It's always eye-opening, and it's always like refreshing to be in that sort of environment, because I think everyone has a tendency to do this, but I definitely do. I get very wrapped up in my product and my computer screen and my team, and did payroll get filed, and all of these, kind of things. And then when you're at an event like that, you look around and you're like, wow, we are just one small piece of this puzzle, and how can we work together better? And, what are other people doing that we should be doing? Or what are other people, what have they solved that we haven't even thought about? And what are our, like, how are our goals aligned? And how are our approaches different, and all of these types of things. I just love diving deep with people at these events on those subjects.
So you found it sounds like really useful, not just to get your team together, but also just to meet other people that were to put your own kind of sense of place in this industry into sense. Mm-hmm. And then what about the particular? Well, okay. I'm going to just jump to the different topic. One thing that you said that I thought was cool, you mentioned you were like, you kind of had this, you didn't use the word disdain, but I picked up a tone of disdain for like crypto kitties. Where you're just like, what is the deal? But then you were like, but listen, if we can get people into these crypto kitties, these non-fungible tokens, these collectibles, that may kind of like open the door and lead eventually to, real applications. Like suddenly now you own property, or you own a house, and we're using it to own, individual, unique one-offs of particular things that actually affect our life. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't hate crypto kitties.
You hate crypto kitties. That'll be our headline for this podcast. My crypto.
I don't. And my team, by the way, my team, the whole world, I think at this point, They all make fun of me because I don't get it. I've never really been a gamer though. I've never done like the trading card games either. I've never been like one of those massive multiplayer things. I've never been one to like sell my account or buy gear or whatever. You know, all these concepts that are literally everyone on my team does on a daily basis.
Well, good. You got your team members doing it.
I don't get it, right? Because I've never experienced it. But it's kind of a weird double think thing because even though I personally don't get it, like I don't have like that passion or that spark or whatever. Like that's not a thing for me in this area. I at the same time do get it because I see my team and I see these massive ecosystems that have sort of like organically grown over time. I've seen what CryptoKitties has done for Ethereum and not just like that it crashed the Ethereum network, but also that, you know, it was like a really easy way, a really easy thing to do besides just like holding your money. And like, so I it's weird because I see the value, I really see the value, but I don't get the value on a deeper level or something. I'm not quite sure how to explain it.
Do you own any CryptoKitties yourself?
I do.
Okay.
I try, like, I make a habit of like doing all the things regardless.
Yeah.
I have actually like a really I'll share this story just because it should be somewhere for history's sake.
Cool.
So when CryptoKitties first started taking over the world, you know, we started like, you know, looking into it and playing with them and of course like getting some CryptoKitties, and mainly our CMO Jordan. I basically tasked him with it. I was like, hey, figure out what this CryptoKitties thing is and then we'll do it together and, you know, etc. And so I gave him sort of one of the private keys to our test wallets, which is just a wallet that basically like, I don't know, has $5 in it. So many people have access to this private key. It's not secure whatsoever, but you know, there's $5 in it. You can go do whatever you want for test purposes. So I gave him this and he bought a CryptoKitty or a couple CryptoKitties or something. We played around with it. I understood it at some level. I thought the hype was, there was a lot of hype and I didn't fully think it was aligned with the product, but whatever. And then like a month later, Jordan goes to check on the CryptoKitties and there's no ETH in the account anymore. And so he was like, hey, I'm going to move these CryptoKitties to like a more secure account, but there's no ETH. So we send some ETH in so that you can get the CryptoKitties out. Yeah. And immediately the ETH is like taken from the account. And we've seen this pattern so many times. We immediately know that the private key has been compromised and that, you know, some fisher somewhere got it or some hacker somewhere got it. But they weren't stealing our CryptoKitties. They were only stealing the ETH. But they were doing so automatically. So we spent the next hour of our lives trying to get the CryptoKitties out of the wallet. But every time you would send ETH in, the ETH would immediately be sent to the attacker. And so we literally had to like formulate the transactions very carefully, broadcast them, then send the ETH in, and like, you know, basically like randomness or luck would dictate whether or not a CryptoKitty escaped the phishing wallet.
Okay, wait, did the CryptoKitty thing was it just happenstance that somebody had figured out how to suck out the ETH from the wallet?
So
or was the CryptoKitty some kind of Trojan horse that made some access point that somebody was following in there?
No, it was literally like, so we've seen this pattern a lot. Like there's so many groups of like these sort of fishers, attackers, hackers. And what they do is they'll set up, whenever they find a new private key, they'll just drain it immediately. And it's like automatic on their computer or whatever. And so I've seen this because we have customers and users that have been phished. And so the same pattern was happening with our own address, which, I mean, to be honest, probably got entered on a phishing website somewhere. But essentially what they would do is it would be automatic. So every time any amount of ETH would go into the account, their sort of computer system would send it to this other address. But their computer system wasn't set up to steal the CryptoKitties. So the CryptoKitties were still in our wallet, but we couldn't get ETH in there long enough to send the CryptoKitties out.
Such a weird little thing. It's like I mean, in a way, it's like, ooh, like tricky ways to hide your ETH. Make it into a kitty. I was hoping your story was going to end up like in that meantime, the CryptoKitties had gone from like worth $5 to like $5,000, and you went back in there but it sounds like that wasn't the.
I don't know the actual value of the CryptoKitties, but the whole thing that sparked this was because we wanted to move the CryptoKitties to a more secure account because they were increasing in value, right. And we knew that this account wasn't that account should never hold more than $5. I don't know. We had a very early. I don't know if we had a generation 0 one or if we had like a generation 1 one, but we had a very early CryptoKitty that we were very proud of.
God, you're making me think of like all these topics of security, which I know you read about a lot. And like what like how to. The whole question of like I hear and I read conflicting information about like how hard it is to like take this person that's built some little thing to suck out your ETH from that wallet, how hard it is to track them down. And some people are like it's impossible if they're good, but if they're shitty at this, it's really pretty easy. But it actually makes me think of another question for you. Like you've been at this for longer than a lot of folks that have been in this industry with building something that people use. What is something like what skill set is it that you like on a daily or weekly basis, you wish you had this person that knew X, where you're like, God, I wish I was knew like my best friend or my person I could pick up the phone and just call was an expert in this particular aspect or skill set about crypto.
Oh, it's not about crypto though, but I was going to say recruiting.
Oh,
like
really?
finding, especially when you have like an established team, bringing new people in, how do you find that person? Like even just defining what skills you want them to have or like what sort of personality you want them to have or whatever. And then ensuring before you hire them, ensuring that they're going to be a great part of your team and add to your team so that collectively like the strength of the team is stronger than the strength of the individual parts. I'm definitely not good at that.
My guest 2 episodes ago was actually a technical recruiter who had worked for SpaceX and for these kind of like really established great companies, and now he's doing blockchain developer recruitment. Are you specifically?
Can I get his number?
Yeah, for sure. for sure. Well, it's funny because we did this whole episode, and I'd kind of like set up the whole thing of like, this is the way about this is a podcast about getting a career in crypto, and by the end of it, like I was like, okay, Tom, that was great, but I got to tell you, like it really wasn't specific. It was like he's just a great recruiter. Yeah.
It's magic. I've decided that it's magic, and it's like I could probably try to develop that skill, but I probably would never be as good as the people that just are that.
Well, but it's like the layers you're talking about is like first identifying what you think you need, and then it's figuring out like how well do they fit that, and then it's like that third one of like, wait, if they're going to be on our team like indefinitely, that whole other piece. I mean, like, so. Can you give us an example of like what just to add it to so to finish up that piece 2 episodes ago we left it as a to be continued. I was like, Tom, you're coming back and we're going to answer these questions. Like one of the questions was, what's the Ivy League of education on a blockchain resume? Like if you went to Harvard or Yale or Stanford for a regular startup, back in the .com days or whatever, that was like you're going to get in there. If you worked at Google, you'll get an interview. And so now we were kind of saying like maybe it's Consensus or like what are the brand names for getting in there? But I'm curious if like what do you look for? What stands out when you get applications?
So, and this, I'm just going to preface this by saying that I'm not a recruiter, so this may be wrong. Like, this may be why we have issues with recruiting, but
hopefully no recent hires are listening.
So this may be like what not to do. But this is okay. So this is, and I am not like a Miss Badass CEO who's done this before. I'm not trying to like dominate the entire frickin' world and own everything. I'm quite the opposite. And my goal with my team and with my company is, first and foremost, like, build things that help people and make people's lives better and have, an actual impact on individual people. And that same sort of like goal and philosophy actually transfers, over to the team as well. So, when I look at individuals on our team, how can the company, how can me personally, how can other team members, how can we empower each other and help each other grow on like a personal level and a professional level? How can we, again, like this concept of the strength of the team should be stronger than the strength of the individual parts. Those are sort of the things that I want and I value a lot. So when I'm, recruiting people and talking to people and doing interviews, I really try to dive deep and understand what motivates them, and like what gets them really excited. I try to understand how, like what they're trying to get out of a job, because there's some people that just are looking for the biggest paycheck. There's some people that are looking for any paycheck and, they'll do the minimum viable effort for that paycheck. There's some people who are looking to satisfy like their ego, whether that's like with a title or with money or with status or whatever. And then there's some people that actually, like maybe they've been building products for enterprise, but they want to build products with users, for users. And then there's people that are just like so into this space and they just, they'll do anything to improve this space and improve the products in the space and that kind of stuff. And so I definitely tend to put less stock in someone's resume and what, the sort of the perfectly polished side of them that they present, and actually dive into who they are and what their experiences are and how those experiences can contribute to our product and our team.
That sounds cool. It's funny. It's funny though, because I mean, I hope you can take this the right way, but like every time I ask this question, I literally ask, I kind of like, I'm looking for like, it's this box or this box. Nobody will answer this question. And it's probably because it's a bad question.
Oh, so like what boxes do I need to check to hire someone?
Okay. What would you say? What's a thing in experience, previous places they've worked or went to school?
Oh, yeah.
Go
okay.
like, ooh, I'm going to definitely talk to that person because they, whatever, finished this course or worked on this GitHub repository.
Mm-hmm. So if they've worked pretty much anywhere, like on any company within the crypto space or any like viable product in the crypto space, those grab my attention. Yeah. In the same vein, if they've worked for like a scammy ICO or like they've launched their own token or something and then abandoned it, those
red flag.
Red flag.
If they're living in Singapore, there's all these complaints about what happened to my money.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely if they've like built, like there's a lot of people that like just at some point built some random little dApp, even if it's like a gambling dApp or a little game or something. Those really intrigue me because I want to like those types of people, in my opinion, the same things that naturally like motivate them, we can apply that in our team very easily. Yeah. Like if I'm say like on LinkedIn looking, I don't really put a lot of stock in schools, especially, the most successful crypto people are either dropouts or like went to school for theater or some random thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the, I'll usually search like if they've worked at Coinbase, if they worked at blockchain, if they worked at Consensus. We're just starting to see sort of the early Ethereum like dApps and products. We're seeing people start to move around from those because they've been around long enough now. I'll search for all of those. Consensus has this thing, I don't know if it's still going on, but they have this thing called Consensus Developer Academy. And a lot of people put that in their LinkedIn. So I'll skim through those, especially for like entry-level junior type developers, because that means that they like, one, took the initiative to and are like interested in blockchain, 2, got accepted into the academy, 3, went through the academy, and now are probably looking for a place to apply those skills. And then the other, this is just for specifically our company. We have like a remote team. They're literally all over the globe. So we have to be really sort of careful with hiring and make sure that we find people that have either like successfully worked remote before or have been their own boss before. There are some people that really do need that like 9-to-5 office structure, whether it's for like the social aspect or because if they don't have any structure, then their lives will just devolve into random sporadic 48-hour code sessions that end in a tantrum.
I love
it's
it.
really, it's, there's a lot of things that I've learned about, who the best people are. And for our team, people that are really, they don't necessarily have to be experts in the blockchain, but they have to want to be. Like they have to be on that path and want it and really, really want it. And then obviously like want to contribute to this ecosystem via our product and our company.
This is great. I mean, it's the more we try to dive into crypto specific stuff, it really is just about being human and working together as teams and making cool shits that apply across probably all time. I want to give you a chance to do any final plugs, and then kind of if there's actual job positions you want to pitch to, and then how to get a hold of your product. But I have a question for you about where I'm going with this podcast. My next 3 guests are all in the collectible, non-fungible token sphere, specifically relating to art. And I don't know if there's more you had to say about NFTs based on your panel, but I want to know if you had any questions or things you would think would be interesting topics that I could bring up with the upcoming guests.
Yeah, that's okay. So what am I most sort of curious about right now? First is how people that are really like familiar or obviously like working on this stuff, how do they see the sort of relationship, or not relationship, but like you'll have these collectibles, these sort of digital NFTs, these digital assets, whatever, that are solely in their own little like ecosystem, right? And they're all digital, and this is like the like Gods Unchained and stuff like that. And then you also have
what
these
was the one you just mentioned?
NFTs.
Gods Unchained?
Yeah, Gods Unchained.
I don't even know that
that's
one.
The one. Oh, that's my entire team. They've been opening their card packs like it's Christmas for the last year.
Okay, I wrote that down. Gods Unchained. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
And then you have these, this concept of like tokenize the world, right? So, you have tokens that, are either like prove ownership or whatever it is, for like real, tangible, real world assets. And that one is like connecting the traditional world or the real world with this digital world. And I want to know how people are expecting that sort of space to evolve, and specifically if they're going to like diverge or converge. Because for me, like when I imagine, say, a piece of art in a museum and a digital trading card on your computer screen, those are remarkably different things. However, they're both utilizing this, like the NFT, like the non-fungible token concept and technology. So, yeah. How's that going to play
You
out?
got no. That's I love it. You have a good brain for the big identifying very specifically the very big, challenging, overarching conundrums.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
I have more questions than answers, though.
Hey, if there's anybody, I'm gonna and for folks listening, the recruiter we had on 2 episodes ago is Tom Hamilton. You can find it in our show notes. But Taylor, I will email you his phone number and email stuff if you want to try him as a recruiter. But do you want to plug anything else with MyCrypto, or even if anybody is listening that's looking for work, what you guys are hiring for, or whatever else you want to plug?
Yeah. So the product can be found on mycrypto.com. In the footer, we have like all of our social links, but primarily I really love interacting with people on Twitter. So that's just at MyCrypto on Twitter. Do
you think to interact with you, better to use MyCrypto or to use your personal handle?
Yeah, I have my personal one, but either one's fine. My personal one sucks for podcasts because it's at Tayvano_.
Okay, gotcha. I'll put both in the show notes. But if you go to MyCrypto on Twitter, you will find Taylor's personal handle. Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, I really I love Twitter. It's just so easy and concise, and you can actually really connect with people. And then in terms of who we're hiring, I'm always interested in talking to people that are either trying to get into this space or are already in this space, and think that they can really, really provide value to our product across any front. Specifically, engineers, developers. Our sort of quote unquote stack is React and TypeScript. We have the infrastructure side of things handled, but definitely anyone who wants to build a product for users, anyone who wants to help us get better at the it's so weird with blockchain, but it's connecting all the stuff. It's hooking all the stuff together. It's enabling these crazy new features in really, really easy and simple ways for users. Those are the types of builders that we're looking for right now.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Taylor, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for the time. Thanks for coming on Coloring Crypto. And
thank you. This was really lovely.
And I'll follow up with some info on email with the contact information for recruiters. And if you have any thoughts on who else would be a good guest for us, please let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. I will certainly do that.
All right. Thanks, Taylor. Have an awesome rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Welcome to Coloring Crypto. I found Taylor Monahan of MyCrypto ranked by consensus as a Twitter account you got to follow. Welcome to Coloring Crypto, the podcast that illuminates the blockchain. I'm your host, Gabe Colors, and this is episode 56. Episode 56 of Coloring Crypto.
Yeah, my name is Taylor Monahan. I am the founder and CEO of MyCrypto.
Follow Hudoku on Instagram. The Color Puzzle app. Hudoku, Huedoku, to game, to puzzle. It teaches you color grammar and visual literacy. That's our sponsor, Hudoku.